everybody, and welcome to Felting Fun with Steph. And I'm going to get this right. You're that side, and Joe.
yeah. We need to do the two Ronnies thing of
Yes.
I say your name and you say mine. But I can imagine that.
Yes. Yeah. Every time we'll be introducing other people.
Yeah, exactly. Forget my own name.
Yeah, exactly. So, in case anybody doesn't know, I am Stephanie Lester, and
I'm Joe Lochhead.
Yay! Well, we got that far.
Yeah. Great start.
And this is episode 2.
What's that?
Episode 2. Sorry, I'm just saying this is episode 2.
Oh, episode 2.
We're on to our second episode 2.
Yes, and for everybody who doesn't know, and why would you know? Stephanie and I have been battling for the past hour again with the technology. So, what looks seamless and amazing now certainly didn't look like this 10 minutes ago.
No. And who knows? I wish I had the answer as to what the problem was, but I still don't have the answer. Who knows? If it works now, just get it in the bag. I think
get it in the bag. Ask no questions.
Absolutely. And so the official title of today's show is going to be Needles. But I think it's probably as well to talk about our giveaways, is it now, so that people can, watch and carry on. So in order to be entered into the giveaways, you need to like the video, comment on the video. And if you aren't already following us, and that's me on my Tootique channel and you on your Crafty Kit Company channel, they need to follow as well. And then we'll pull it out of the bag a week later from now. Yeah.
When we say pull it out of the bag, we really mean use that fancy software that you discovered,
right?
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? You get a little certificate.
I started noting them all down, on a piece of paper, as you do. And my colleague, Cindy, said, there's an app to do that, Steph.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, of course there is, yeah. Just literally click. Oh, there you go. And wasn't that great last time?
It was so cool. So cool.
Yeah, so that was brilliant. So what's your prize this time?
Yeah, so given that this week's topic is felting needles, I'm going to give away one of these, which is a Clover felting pen. Now, I'll just talk about this pen now, okay, rather than wait until it's my turn to talk about the tools. So Clover felting pen takes 3 needles. Can you see I'm trying to work out where the
where the camera is going to get it
and get everything focused. It takes 3 needles. I actually usually use it with 2 needles because sometimes 3 of the heavier gauge needles just makes it really difficult to felt with. And you can adjust it so that you can take this bit off the end. So if you want to felt more deeply, you've got more of the shaft that you can poke into your work. I usually leave that bit on because it's only this end section of the needles that have the barbs on it. And to add or remove needles, it just unscrews here and the needles pop in and out of the end there. So it's a great tool. It's made by the Clover brand, Japanese, I think the Japanese brand of tools, not just felting tools. They make all sorts of things, and it's always really, really good quality stuff that they do. So if you're going to invest in a pen for felting, go for the Clover one. There are some less expensive on the market, and there are some, just be aware of this, there are some where the needles are actually fixed into the pen. So if you snap one, you can't change them over. I think, Stephanie, you've got one that's a different colour, but you can change the needles.
Yes, I've got a blue.
Right.
I have a blue one, but you can actually still change the needles and everything in that one as well.
So I've seen the blue ones, but it's actually the one that I'm thinking of is like a paler blue colour, and it's considerably less expensive. But that I think is because the needles aren't very good quality, and as I say, they're fixed, and if they snap, then
it's a great little tool. I was explaining on the group that my grandson Stan has taken a huge liking to needle felting, and when I showed him that tool, his little face lit up.
Oh, it's just brilliant. It's just really ergonomic, and if you're doing a lot of felting, it's just nice to have something nice to use. good quality tools. So yes, this is my giveaway. So like and follow the Crafty Kit Company YouTube channel, and to be in with a chance of winning this one.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to do the same prize as last time, because basically it could go on, and that is my online tutorial, which is to make prints.
Amazing.
Here he is, little fella, and it's all online. There are 9 hours worth of videos, and I have a little Facebook group for anybody to come and share and everything. And of course Heather won last time, so we're all waiting to see Heather's
I think
version.
she started.
Yeah,
she posted a picture of all the ingredients all laid out ready.
And if you are in the UK and you win, I will send you the fibres. If you're not in the UK, it becomes a bit complicated. So, but I don't want to say you can't enter, because you can still get the tutorial and get the fibres yourself. So yeah, lovely. But like, comment, all that marvellous stuff. We'll have arrows here. As I say, brilliant weather girl that I'm not. I've got no idea.
You're pointing generally in the right direction, though. It always impresses me how people do that.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, brilliant. Okay, well that's got that kicked off. So right, we're going to start going over to other cameras. So this is where it gets really exciting on the technical front. So we're going to start off by coming over to me, because I'm going to talk a little bit about needles and how they work, and then we'll go over to Jo, and she'll actually talk about the actual needles themselves. So hopefully, let me get this. This could be seamless. Yeah, there we go. Marvelous. Brilliant. Right, so look at this fantastic. I love this picture, because it really shows you what wool looks like under a microscope. And we're always saying they've got scales on them. And how does it actually work with the needles? Now, interestingly, I was just looking up the needles in the very special German company, and I've always called the little notches on the needles barbs. Now, I then looked it up, and they said you shouldn't call them barbs, you should call them notches, because a barb is something that sticks out, whereas a notch is something which is notched in. And I thought, well, it doesn't really matter whether you call them barbs or notches, but basically they are bits which catch these scales. Yeah. And that's the interlocking of those scales is what actually felts the wool together. And that's when you've put your jumper in the washing machine and it's shrunk. It's because they've locked in those scales and they're not coming out again. But it's quite interesting to look at the other fibres here as well, because you've got the alpaca, which I love to use alpaca when it comes to adding fur on the top. But I usually use a bit of wool to help. Well, I mean, we'll talk about this more in a later edition when we talk about, skills for doing that. But there's still a certain amount of scales there and cashmere. But once you get to silk, cotton and polyester, nothing.
Oh, how interesting! You've actually ordered them from the kind of the roughest with the most scaly to the smoothest.
Yeah. So I have to say I didn't. It was I pulled it off the internet.
Well, you didn't need to say that.
Don't like to take credit, which isn't mine.
Because actually, the polyester right over on the right hand side, the recycled plastic bottle fibre that we've been using lately. Yeah, actually felts really well, but the felting process must just be different if it doesn't have the scales.
Well, I want to find someone, and if anybody is listening to this and they have a huge microscope, could they please put a piece of our fibre under, because I'd love to know what it does actually look like, because that's obviously a particular type of polyester, and I wonder whether the recycled plastic bottles fibre does have some sort of roughness to it, because it felts too well.
It does. So there must be something about it. And randomly, I do know a couple of people that might have access to high-powered microscopes.
Jo, get them on it.
I think I will.
God, I'm excited now. Oh my God. Get them on it. Yeah, love to know. Love to know.
Leave that with me, and we'll see for a future episode, because that would be really fascinating. But
yes, absolutely, because it does. It felt rock hard as well. That if you, in fact, I always start with a much lighter needle on the on the recycled plastic bottles fibre, because it does go so hard, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I'm going to now bring in the little, and Alex, you probably can't read the writing, but I'm going to explain, because it's just the really nice thing here is it actually shows the different shapes of the needles and the notches and everything, and how they are on the needles. So the actual working part of the needle is this little bit down here, and that's the one which has got the notches or the barbs, whatever you want to call it. And Joe's going to talk about the triangle needles and the star needles and the spiral, which is also a triangle, but it's just got a spiral in it. And I was looking on that German website, I can't say the name, which is why I'm not saying it, but they have actually even got other shapes as well, where it was like a little teardrop, and so the little top bit was the only bit which actually had the barbs on. So it's obviously real specialist things, because that little bit of history here, the needle felting machine used in industry, the first patented machine was in the 1830s, and it's those actual needles which are out of those machines that we use. And in fact, we probably only use, I should imagine, a subset of them, don't we? I mean, because there are just
there were so
many
many.
of them.
Yeah, it's the company is Gross-Beckert.
That's
Thank
you.
Yeah, Gross-Beckert, and they do have a huge range of different needles. But as you say, some of the needles that we don't actually carry ourselves are very specific, and for industry. But it might be interesting to see what kind of effects that you could get.
Yeah, I would love it. I mean, that is the kind of day trip which I would quite like to do, is to go to their place and get all the different needles, and
might be longer than a day, Stephanie.
Yes, it might be a bit more than a day trip, but I'd love to do that and be able to try out all the different needles and effects, because as I say, we have our favourites, but there are particular. Well, I suppose when you think about it, I was looking down their instructions, because they were all things like, slippers, hats, carpet underlay, washers, piano parts, and you were saying something in cars as well, wasn't it? Under the felt, under the bonnet of the cars and everything. There's loads of different things for felt, and obviously they need completely different needles to get the effects and everything that they do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Quite often used in musical instruments, inside pianos. And inside drums.
Dampening.
Yeah.
And felting, people often get confused because they say, felting's been around for donkey's years. Well, wet felting and pressed felting has, but the industrial needle felting, no. As I say, mid 1800s before that, and then it was like the 1980s before it was born as a sculptural art.
That's right.
craft.
And I want to say it was somebody called David, but I might have dreamt that. But I think it might have been.
It was a couple, wasn't it? It was David somebody. And I'm useless with names at the best of times, and I'm so sorry.
That's something else to look up. So
yes,
somebody with a microscope, and David. If anybody knows who it was. Please comment below.
Yeah, absolutely.
David, I'm sure it was David. I've got an uncanny knack for remembering useless bits of information, including first names.
Love it. Okay, yeah. So
Steph, those are they on your website? Those diagrams, those PDFs?
They're not. Do you know? Because this is something that I downloaded, but I can easily make them available. We can put them in the group, even, can't we? Just so that
I think people would really love to be able to download their own copy of that. Yeah,
it's just a really useful summary, I think. And as I say, I take them whenever I do shows, so that I can, when people say what on earth is it, it just really quickly explains, and once you understand how something works, I think it gives you the ability to play around with it a bit more, doesn't it? So I
totally agree, absolutely. And once people understand how the needles work, and that there's no magic to needle felting, it's actually very simple. And really, why a lot of beginner needle felters tend to break the ends of their needles, because they're handling them the wrong way, maybe, or they're twisting or bending them. But also, it's amazing the number of people who just like, I don't get it. Is this stitched? Is it? How does it work?
Stitching. Because the trouble is, you call it a needle. And because it's called a needle, people automatically think stitching. And I think that's why I very quickly get to the industrial bed, which goes up and down. And so if you understand that this needle was built to be in a machine which just goes up and down, and that's the action that you have to do, there's kind of a
I got hold of a set of instructions. Well, actually, it was a kit to make something. It was a number of years ago. In fact, it might even have been. I can't remember if we did in the last episode. We showed our first needle felted makes.
We did,
and we showed you that little cat that I'd made. Well, that was a kit that came from China. And the instructions were scant, shall we say. And the felting needle was referred to as a poke tool. So, and actually it was highly amusing, but actually that's probably more accurate than calling it a needle.
Than a needle. So,
let's just start calling it a poke tool.
Poke tool. My God. I know. I mean, the wording around it hasn't, and it's funny, isn't it? Because it's like so many people, I used to say stabbing, and a lot of my fellow artists would say, you need to stop calling it that, Steph. It's quite, and I said, okay, I'll just call it as an action of sculpting then. And then, but people then think, but what are you doing with it? So I think, depending on who you're talking to.
I know, because poking has a whole other thing around it as well. I'm just like,
and you just sort of think, depends who you're talking to, is that the descriptive word that's
poker stab.
Right, so I think we're going to try and get this over to you on your overhead. And I'm gonna probably have to make you bigger on my screen here, because I've managed to crop you. And oh no, that's got you. And shall I? I love your.
Am I good?
There, so I'm going to bring that in. There you go.
There Fantastic. We are. So, marvelous. I'm just going to go through a couple of my favourite needles, and they might well turn out to be your favourite needles as well, Steph, because
we'll see.
I think, once you've experimented and used a few different felting needles, you tend to just keep reaching for the same 2 or 3 needles all the time. Now, I've put this onto the postcard that comes with our packs of needles, and I have poked them all into this felting pad. And somebody in the Facebook group did this a little while ago.
I think it was Margaret, wasn't it?
Yeah, it might have been Margaret. And I thought that's actually a really clever idea. However, I wouldn't recommend this as a way of sort of storing your felting needles long term, because it's not really a good idea to be poking them in and out of cardboard all the time.
No,
postcard is.
It's all right. Once you put the hole in, it's all right, but not to keep making a new one.
Yeah. But I don't know about you, but when I'm working, I am quite an untidy worker, but I tend to just, once I'm finished with the needle, I just poke it into my felting mat. And I do actually I just don't think I would take enough time to poke it right back into the hole. I've got another couple of mats here that have got needles in them. I've got this one, and actually I've got this little felting mat here, which is full of needles. I find this quite useful, just to have a little mini mat just for needles that I keep.
I use one of the pumpkins.
Yes, that's a good idea. So something that you felted. Some pin cushions are a little bit too firm, I think. But the little felting mats are great. So what you've got here is a selection of needles, and these are all of the needles that we carry in our mixed packs, and also you can buy them in individual packs as well. And they're a range of heavy gauge needles through to fine, and they also include a couple of the reverse barb needles, which I'll talk about as well. Generally speaking then, or actually not generally, this is definitely the case, the smaller the number, the heavier the gauge of needle, which means it will felt more quickly, it will leave bigger holes in your work, but the heavier gauge of needles, like a 36 gauge, is a really good needle for starting off with and for getting going quickly. So, and up to on here, what have we got? We actually did have, I'll show you, there was a needle with a white top, and I've still got some of these, and this was a 42 gauge. So this is a really fine gauge, and it was a twisted 42 gauge needle.
I always used to use that for putting the whites of the eyes on an animal.
Yeah, just for the really fine detail. Now, unfortunately, Gross-Beckert discontinued that needle, but we realised that the 40 gauge twisted needle was so similar that it does almost the same job.
Yeah.
So my two favourite needles, the ones that I always reach for, are the green topped Cross Star 36 gauge. So it's got more sides or edges, and it's if you look at it, I mean, you won't be able to see this on the camera because it's just too fine, but if you look at it in a kind of cross section, it looked like a star.
But if they refer to the picture of the I had earlier, if they download that, they'll be able to see the star on that. So
yes, exactly, because you're looking at the sort of end on.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's a star and it's got more edges, it has more barbs, so it's going to build your work up much more quickly. So this is my favourite kind of all-round quick needle, the green one. And then my favourite one, which we just mentioned, was the blue one, which is a twisted 40 gauge. And because it's got this twisted cross-sectional shaft at the end. No, this is the shaft. What do you call this bit at the end?
Oh, let's see. What does it say? What does it call it? It just calls it the working end on this.
The working end. So you can see if I twist that in the light, it is twisted.
Yeah.
And because it's twisted, the notches or the barbs on the needle are in different places on the working end. So when you poke it into your work, you're going to see fewer holes in your work. So it's really nice for all that really fine,
neater.
Fine detail and finishing off. So for something like painting with wool, so this kind of two-dimensional felting, this was completely done with two needles, the green one and then the blue one, just for the finer details, putting the sort of the outline on and so on.
I love that.
It's cute, isn't it? So this is the Sophie Wheatley design. She's
beautiful.
I love her kind of playful designs. It was a workshop that I took with her, which was really nice to be on the other side of things, if you like.
Yeah, so it's good fun doing that.
Yeah, it is. And then, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the reverse needles, and I've got here this. Now, this is a bit sad. This has been kicking around, literally. It's been on the floor, it's been on various shelves. It's been up here for probably nearly a year.
Wow.
Just not finished. I don't know why. I think it's because we were going to rewrite the instructions for the hair.
Yes.
And do you remember?
Yes.
And I got this far, and then I don't know what happened. But anyway, here he is. If anybody would like to finish off the hair, comment below, and I might even send it to you. Yeah, exactly. So the reverse needles, here we go. We carry two. We've got a reverse barb 32 gauge and a reverse barb 40 gauge. And the 40 gauge is the one with the orange top, and the 32, you can see it's actually, I don't know if you can see that, it's a much longer needle.
Yeah, and you can see it's thicker as well, actually.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
So when you're felting with a reverse barb needle, it's a bit weird because it just slides into the work, and you just think, oh gosh, it's not what you're used to. And of course, when you pull it out, it's going to pull. I'll just do it this way so you can see. It's going to pull the fibres out with it because the notches are going in the other direction.
Yeah.
So that's the reverse one. Now I tend not to use the heavier gauge, the 32 gauge reverse. I would normally use the finer one.
Yeah.
And to fluff.
I mean, that 32 one really does pull the hell out of it, doesn't it?
It really does. It's a bit too.
I mean, you'd have to have done a really, really tight felt to start with, wouldn't you, to put up? Because otherwise I think you're kind of destroying what you've already done with that 32.
Yeah. And the other thing to remember about, and I was talking about this actually in the hints and tips for the cottage egg the other night, with a reverse barb needle, you just need to remember that if you've built up your shape using different colors, if you've got a core of white with a color on the outside, when you put the reverse barb needle in, you're going to be pulling out the color that's in the core. So whatever color is in the core is going to come through onto the outside, unless you just use the last couple of notches on the needle, and then you're just
which can be really useful if you want a two-tone animal, because if you want sort of like black and white, let's say, and you've put black on as the top color and you want to bring some white through, it can have some great effects.
Yeah, absolutely. So if that's your intention, then that's fabulous. But if it's not, it's something to be aware of. And if you do fluff something up and it's a little bit fluffier than you would like, you can always just give it a trim with some scissors. And then the only other thing just to talk about, we will be discussing tools in our next show, just to show you this little handy tool. So it just takes a single needle, and it's really good if you're traveling. Now, I'm not quite sure about felting needles on planes at the moment. But in any case, it's good because you can take the needle out. You actually have to take the needle out and turn it round, and then pop it back in, and there you have a very handy, and it feels really nice to use actually, just for a single felting needle, and then to pop it away again.
And once again, everyone's different as to whether they like to use holders or not, and that once again is something everybody will decide once they've done it for a bit. There is no right nor wrong. I don't use holders, and that for no reason other than I just like holding the needle itself, absolutely. They are great. But I tend to, if I'm just using people.
Just a single needle, I just hold the needle. I don't tend to, but I do like that Clover felting pen. And then the other thing, and we quite often do this, although I haven't actually run any in-person workshops for a while, but when we do run in-person workshops to speed things up for people, we get people to tape needles together, so you can make your own little handy tool just by taping with some masking tape or some sort of stretchy sticking plaster, and it makes it quite handy. I've also seen the Lady Moth needle felter makes her own little handy tools, and she actually covers the handles of them with polymer clay and bakes the whole thing in the oven, so that she's got her own little tool to use. So there you go. So my favourite needles, the green one and the blue one.
So before you go, I shall say my favourite needles.
I'm not going anywhere, by the way. I'm just coming back. No.
Well, I love twisted, and so for me, it's the 38 and 40. I tend not to. Let's see. I'm going to bring us back together, and then I'm going to have to make you bigger. There we go. Here we go.
So the 38 and the 40 are actually quite close in gauge, aren't they? Then,
but see, to me, they're not. It's weird, isn't it? But everyone's different. I always say it depends how you felt, and it depends what stage you're at. So, like when I'm going to bring Stan into it again, when I said to Stan, "Oh, here's a really 36," and he tried. He said, "Oh no, that's too much." As a beginner, he quite liked to have it done slowly, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So then the general ones that you have in a lot of your kits, he loved those, and that was what he wanted. And even when I gave him his little Clover tool, he was like, "No, that's what I want." And I think you just get to a point where you quite like, and for you it means a lot or it doesn't. And for me, there's a huge difference between the 38 and the 40. I use the 38, but also, as we said in the last time, the way I tend to felt is I do tie a knot in it, and then I wrap a layer, and then I do another layer. So that 38 is perfect for that. And I think if you're more likely to roll up and do, I think the 36 is a really good one, because you need to do a bit more substantial stabbing. And so it
get you off to a really good start.
And so none of it's wrong and none of it's right. It's whatever's right for you.
Exactly. There are no right and wrong. And actually somebody was asking in the group about, oh my goodness, I didn't realize there were so many different felting needles, and how do they work, and what do I do? And my advice would be just to get yourself a pack of mixed needles, you know, a pack with one of each kind of needle, and just to have a play, and just to see what you like, and you will find yourself gravitating towards 1 or 2 or 3 different needles.
I mean, most kits will say use this one, use that one, and like if you really don't know, just use what they say and go along with that. And then, as you say, when you think I'm going to have a play now and decide, but I just as you say, you just keep suddenly reaching for that same one, don't you? And you think, oh, those are the ones, and those are the ones I've run out of. One thing I will say also about needles is broken needles and bent needles and whatever.
Oh yes, yeah.
This is what I put my broken needles in.
What is that?
It's a mixed herb pot.
Spice.
Spice pot. And so I just have these around so I can pop them in, and then when they're full, I can suck and throw them away. I don't have anything sophisticated. It's just
That's a great idea. It's like a little mini sharks box.
Yeah, basically. And that's what I put my broken ones in.
I put mine in a glass jar.
There you go.
A glass jar. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's how we throw the needles. And next time we're going to talk about tools, aren't we?
Yes.
Tools and things.
Yes.
And so
I strongly suspect that the next show is going to be me asking you lots of questions about all your fancy tools.
All the mass behind me type thing that I use.
I know. I can't wait.
One thing I will include, and it's almost controversial in some respects, but I actually have a needle felting tool.
Oh yeah.
And you know, there are pluses and minuses to all things, and I'll talk about that as well, which is I do use that for certain things, and I just think there's a tool which is right for all situations, and I've probably got most of them.
Well, I think that it'll be really interesting to see you going through all of those tools, and I think we would all love to see the needle felting. Now, what's it called? Is it called a gun?
I think it might be called it's like a needle felting gun, isn't it? Yeah.
It's also not very appropriate, but I think I'd like to see that in action.
But also, you know, I've got the big old carding machine, but also, you know, I use other things much smaller, which everybody else could use as well. So I think it'd be quite useful from that point of view. That, you know, not everybody's expected to invest in, you know, these things, because sometimes we have a dabble, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just good to know what's out there as well.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, when are we announcing our the winners?
So 7 days time. We like to do it in 7 days time, don't we? Yes, and we'll do our magical reveal.
Press the button.
Press the button. I love it. I love that. 7 days. So everyone's got 7 days to do their liking and commenting and answering, and you know, and also, you know, if anyone's got any thoughts about what they want in the next one, you know, or future shows to say as well.
Yeah, please do let us know. Great.
Excellent. Okay.
All right.
So I think that's it.
Yeah.
So shall we do the 2 Ronnies, and I'll say it's good night from me.
And it's good night from her. Well,
there you go. Good night.
That's easy because there's no names involved.
Yes, that's right. Works then, doesn't it?
All right. See you soon.
So, see ya.
Bye.